Gonna call the meeting to order. Should all stand, please, to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, today is August 19th. The commission agenda is fishing game located on 11 Hazen Drive in Harvard. It's Tuesday, August 19th. And I want to be advised that this meeting is also being captured on video and is being voice recorded. Public is entitled to attend all commission meetings, and when recognized by the chairman, public may speak on any item on the agenda. Chairman reserves the right to limit public comments and the extent necessary for the orderly conduct of the meeting. One of the things that I do require, if you're going to get up and speak, up to the podium, state your name and where you're from. With that, I'm going to move to item number 1, the approval of the July 15th, 2025 commission minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion has been made. Any discussion? Hearing none. Minutes for July 15th, 2025 are approved. Item number 2. Approval to accept the following donations totaling $620 made to the Let's Go Fishing Program in memory of Paul Choo Choo Cha Train, who was a volunteer with the Let's Go Fishing instructor. From Bill Moran, Donna Preston, Alice Moran, and Dan Blanchett, $200. Loretta Buck, Brookline, New Hampshire, for $100. Frank Devise from Manchester for $100. Irene Adams, Chester, New York, for $100. Jacqueline Pastrana from Manchester for $50. Mr. and Mrs. Willie Visit by vote, Manchester for $50. And Denise Paradise in Manchester for $20 for a total of $620. Item number 3, approval to accept the donation of $35 made to the Let's Go Fishing Program from Jan Williams of Somersworth, New Hampshire, in memory of Chad Cameron of Rochester, New Hampshire, who was an avid angler who recently passed away. Item number 4, approval to accept the donation of $100 from John and Denise Hussey, Cape Coral, Florida, in memory of John McLatchy of New Ipswich, New Hampshire, who was an avid hunter and angler who passed away on July 15th, 2025. And this donation will be deposited into the small gifts and donation account. Item number 5, approval to accept the following donations totaling $425 made to the Inland Fisheries account in memory of Gary Cutter, a longtime friend and volunteer of the department. An anonymous donated for $150. Benjamin Nugent of Belmont, New Hampshire for $150. Diane Truman and Mark Sizemore of Wrightstown, Maryland for $100. And Don Miller of Sanborn, New Hampshire for $25 for a total of $425.
Make a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion to have it go items 2 through 5 at this point.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve items 2 through 5. Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of items 2 through 5, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Items 2 through 5 are approved. Item 6, Approval to accept 6 prize donations generously donated by Sturm Ruger and Company, Whitman Arms, Prime Archery, Moore Sporting Goods, the Rush Grouse Society, and the New Hampshire State Chapter of the National Wild Turkey Federation. And the prizes will be awarded by random computerized drawings for participants in the 2024 Deer Hunter Mail Survey and the 2024 Bow Hunter Survey, the 2024 and 25 Small Game Hunter Survey, the 2024 Rush Grouse Spring and Tail Survey, and the 2025 Spring Turkey Hunter Survey. The surveys and associated prizes are described below. 2024 Deer Hunter Mail Survey. There'll be 2 prizes. One, a Ruger American Rifle Generation 2 Model 46902, caliber .308 Winchester, valued at $729, generously donated by Sturm Ruger and Company. The second item under that survey is a Whitman Arms 50 caliber Patriot G3 muzzleloader, valued at $900, generously donated by Whitman Arms of Fremont, New Hampshire. Under the 2024 Bow Hunter Survey, first prize will be prime inline bow, valued at $1,200, generously donated by Prime Archery and Moore Sporting Goods of Hillsborough, New Hampshire. On the 2024-25 Small Game Hunter Survey, 1 prize, a Ruger 1022 carbine rifle, model number 1103, valued at $309, generously donated by Sturm Ruger and Company. The 2024 Rush Grouse Swing and Tail Survey, 1 prize, a CD612 field shotgun, valued at $499, generously donated by the Rush Grouse Society. And on the 225 Spring Turkey Hunter Survey, 1 prize, the Winchester SXP Black Shadow 12-gauge shotgun, valued at $430, generously donated by the New Hampshire chapter of the New Hampshire Wild Turkey Federation.
I'll make a motion that we accept the items for the surveys in action item number 6.
Do I have a second? Good. Any discussion? Under the discussion, I just want everybody to know we do this done every year, and for all the sponsors of it, thank you. Any further discussion, Mr. Campbell?
Okay, thank you. I just have a question on this, Valley Louis. What do we do to acknowledge these gifts? Do we do more than just send a letter? Do we give a certificate or a plaque? Here it is.
It's a very good question, and I almost think, I think at least a letter should be sent out.
We do send a letter. Letters are sent out from each of the divisions thanking them. Typically, it's signed by the director, but certainly, if we have little trinkets, we might throw those in as well.
I was thinking maybe we, at some point, should consider some sort of plaque or something. Maybe, I don't know, I just throw that out for consideration. I don't think it's possible.
They do.
I know, but I'm sure you could probably.
We have a pretty good working relationship with these,
I get it.
and we do several things with them throughout the year.
I want to make sure we keep them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? A motion's been made. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you. And thank you to all the sponsors on that also. Moving on. Item 7. Approval of fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 operating budget for the wildlife habitat account, fisheries habitat account, and game management account. And as the Commissioner of Hillsborough County, I am making the motion to put this item off until next month. I would like to see further on some of the expenditures on that account. I can get into it on the discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gene Chandler. Under the discussion, the items that were shown to us last month, I think are very broad. I feel like we're writing a blank check, and I'm not in favor of that. I have no problem with the day items that came in under the presentation that they gave us. It's just some of the larger items, the larger amounts, because they weren't itemized. The larger amounts, I feel we need to be addressed on the larger amounts, where the money is going, what project it's being used on, how it's being used.
Can I ask a question as clarity? Are you
I'd
talking,
like the commissioners to, it's open to discussion with the commissioners first.
just to know if you're talking just wildlife or both?
Now, the item is saying the budget for the wildlife habitat account, fisheries habitat account, and the game management account. I want to hear from the commissioners first. Any commissioners want to join in on the discussion? Commissioner DeRosa.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess my initial concern is how far we as a commission get into the weeds and then potentially hold up the operation game. That would be my first concern, in making sure that there are guardrails if we engage in a discussion like this, so that daily operations, projects that are in the works, there's no kinds of delays that occur in that. The other thing I'd like to point out is, I know that these budgeting items were built using, the strategic plan, which is the directive that we gave here. So I just question obviously our purpose here is oversight. So general flagging of everything and making a lot more work for everybody versus citing real concerns at specific points. I think there needs to be a clear definition.
Does anybody else have anything? Commissioner Kay?
Yeah, just, trying to process this, kind of quickly here and from the last meeting. I would say that, at this point, I look at this process, all right, not only as an authority that the commission has, but as a responsibility. This process was set up a long time ago, and it seems to have worked for a very long time. I would also say that in terms of preparation, okay, to break out with the need for an expenditure, there is a lot of process I know that goes on in this building, and people will show up prepared. I know that. Okay, so I am saying that I personally would not want to change the process, okay, and authorize a sum of money for the fiscal year to just be spent. And if you would, just let us know what you spent it. I don't think so. And I would feel as a commissioner that I have a responsibility, okay, to everyone, okay, to watch the dollars and cents and know something about where they're going in advance of the expenditure, so that when my home phone or my cell phone rings and the public at large has heard about a pending expenditure, I at least know a little something about it. So quickly, I'm not in favor of a blank check. I just don't think that I'd be adhering to my responsibility.
Commissioner Poole?
I just had some questions of my own. it appears to me that the staff is ready to do some sort of presentation, possibly to fill in the blanks. And I guess I would personally like to hear the presentation. Maybe we won't hear that before we do the vote on this particular motion, but if that's gonna answer those questions, it may help us in the process.
Okay, last month we had a brief presentation and they actually sent out the 4 slides on the 4 accounts. This is on a motion, on a motion to table this till next month to get, I'd like to finish this.
That's fine, I'm just responding to you.
The motion is to table it to next month to get into further of a discussion. I don't approach a gray area here, but you all got a letter from the Attorney General and that I had contacted on advice on how to handle this. You saw the recommendations that were in there. I agree with, we put this off till next month, and then between now and then, that we have a meeting, and let's go down over these items and get them all clarified. To do it, to take I'm thinking at least a couple hours. So the motion is to put this off till next month. And then do we want the opportunity to sit down, go over these items? Like I say, I don't have a problem with the day-to-day, none whatsoever. Got a problem with some of the larger items. Correct?
Yeah, I want to just touch on several things. First off, let's talk about the process. I am discovering that the process has not been followed for several years before my arrival. And here we are trying to correct the process and follow the process as we should be. That being said, that's why you saw the presentation last month. That being said, that's why you see the retroactive item for last biennium, because I want to get this corrected. In addition, I want to remind all commissioners that even during that time frame, Fisheries Division has brought forward every project that was outside of just general operations. And when I talk about general operations, I'm talking about fixing roads, doing maintenance, doing monitoring, standard operating items that we do. Anything that was beyond that was brought forward for the commission's approval. There are several projects from wildlife habitat and game management that were not brought forward, in my understanding, from last biennium. And that's why we're trying to get everybody on the same page. This biennium, bring the approval forward for the operational needs, and then any projects, larger projects beyond standard day-to-day operations would come before this commission for approval. I stated that last month. I wanted to state it again, restate it again, because I think that is going to address some of what may have not occurred in the past. Additionally, I just want to add that for us to bring forward an opportunity, like every time we need to repair a road to get approval through the commission, that is going to basically hammer our operations. It's going to create stale process with this agency. We will be non-responsive, non-proactive through that process, because we need to address these things as they occur. And that's where, like, general maintenance, when we have storms, you'll see, I was going to talk about the road repair on one of the roads from large storms. We were able to get that project moving forward because we didn't have to wait. It was part of the operational budget. So I just want to make you aware of that as you're making your decisions.
And I am aware of that, and my thing is, I'm also aware of what has gone on in the past, and you and I have had this discussion on bringing things forward, getting things back on track. Which will be obviously on the next item, but on this item here, I am my recommendation, my motion. I don't want to give a blank check to Fishing Game. And yes, we're probably shell-shocked from in the past. That's the way I feel. That's the way I have been advised to go ahead with this. Does any other commissioner have input? Commissioner,
Thank you, Chair. I assume between now and the next meeting, should this motion pass, we'll be getting some background data on some of the larger concerns, line items you were talking about. You had concerns with? Or am I misunderstanding?
what the recommendation is that we take this item and move it to next month. And in between then, when the commission wants. And I don't recommend the week before. I say do some planning on this. The director and I can set it up to where we will have a meeting with the commission and go over the concerns, the items, especially discussing about the larger items. The concern seems to be, where will it be spent? How will it be spent? On what projects will it be spent on? These are concerns that we have as commissioners, but also, this affects the public also. And we are trying to straighten out over the past years of items that we've seen go up to executive council that never came before us. And we're not made aware of it. I think every commissioner here has had somebody from the public say, hey, how come this happened? I don't know. This is what we're trying to iron out. I was not made aware of these two items. Will be coming up in this meeting this quickly, but what I want to do is I want us to move ahead with getting everything straightened out, but I'm not doing it in a blank check file. I don't want to do it in a blank check file. If the item is if it's approved to be put off till next month, then we'll arrange to have a meeting of the commission. We can bring in counsel if we need to. Go over it. And I want to get this stuff straightened out once and for all. Anybody else that has not spoken yet? Commissioner Stoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Caveney many times talked a lot and said, look, today, I think he did a very good job, and he said the words that I think I would have said. I don't think there's a big problem in setting off the next meeting, and maybe we can get some more information. But I feel the same way as Commissioner Caveney, and I guess I gotta say I feel the same way as you, Mr. Chairman, that I want to know what's going on because I represent Coos County. Each one of these commissioners represents their county. And we have issues in our county that we may know something about that the staff doesn't know anything about. I would like to see the department staff and these commissioners, as commissioners, working together and to separate it on a budget item, I think is not the right way to go. I'm totally supportive of your motion, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else has not had the opportunity to speak? Commissioner Hodgson.
Thank you. So I have a question and comment. My question is, as I look at these various classes of expenses, it strikes me that since we're already in the FY 2026 and we're already spending some of these dollars.
Yes.
So I'm wondering which ones those are. And then my comment is that, to my mind, there appear to be maybe 3, maybe 4 classes of expense, which are large line items and which would be used for a variety of projects over the 2-year period. So since I suspect we're already spending some of these dollars and we have some obligations to continue to do so. I'm wondering whether the chair would consider limiting only certain classes of expense for next month, but accepting the others so that we could continue to meet those obligations. And just those 4 that I mentioned were in the wildlife habitat account 033 land acquisition, 304, research and management. In the game management account, also 304, research and management. And then possibly in fisheries, 030, new equipment replacement. I say possibly because that's a relatively small amount of money and we may have already committed it. I don't know, but I wonder if that's a way to accomplish what the chair is trying to do, but also move forward with the commitments that we've already had.
What I am going to do is go a day-to-day expense, for example, payroll. I don't want to tie up payroll. If I was equipment, I want that coming before us. But just a day-to-day, common sense day-to-day. Your payroll, your benefits to the employees. I don't want to interrupt the day-to-day. But that doesn't mean run out tomorrow and go buy a $60,000 excavator. Correct.
So Commissioner brought up the point that I was gonna raise, which is some of these expenditures are already in process, including the payroll and those sorts of things. Along the lines of the equipment, I know you're thinking $60,000, pieces of equipment, but we're talking about compasses, we're talking about, simple shovel, things like that we purchase out of these funds as well. So I guess if there's a dollar value you want to put on it, if it's something over X number of dollars, that would be very helpful, but otherwise we would be stuck in the mud, literally, not being able to shovel our way out without having to buy.
How about if I put a dollar value on it, that other on the day-to-day operation, other than on payroll, because the dollar value would stop your payroll probably immediately. Day-to-day operation, up at a cap of $5,000. Anything over that, you're gonna wait till next month. That's the cover for compasses.
Mr. Chair. $5,000 to me is, in the operations that we're doing here, is a lot of money. If you're budgeting in your overall budget, a $60,000 excavator, and we approve it at budget time, and we approve it, why would we want to get involved in the minutia of purchasing that when we've already approved that overall budget?
What the question was is for the next month, we don't want to, and it certainly was not my intention to stop all expenditures over the next month. I agree with the day-to-day operation. My example I gave was don't go out tomorrow and buy a $60,000 excavator. Sorry, that was a joke.
No, but
My suggestion is to put a dollar amount.
Yeah.
I picked up 5. If you want to lower it, you can, or if you want to higher it, you can. But just.
I guess I just need to wait and see how this all goes. I mean, for me, you pass an overall operating budget, it's supported by the department, comes through the director to us, the budget's passed. And in that budget, there was a $45,000 total station surveying piece of equipment that was in the budget. And when the department goes out to get that $45,000 piece of equipment, from my perspective, a simple note in our packet that we purchased that particular item. But for us to come and have to approve those types of things, I guess I'm not sure I'm in agreement with that, because I assume that this department, like other state departments, goes out for professional bids. It's professionally advertised, or it's supposed to be. If it's not, that's a different issue. But they go out and it's publicly advertised that we're in the market for a $60,000 excavator. And these are the horsepower and the size and the shape and all that stuff. And once it's purchased, it's awful nice to know that it's been purchased. But for us to sit here and say, well, wait a minute, we're now gonna go spend it, I need your approval again. Unless I'm misunderstanding something here, I think that's no.
The understanding is that on item 7, you're asking to have a full year budget approved without any real explanation. And that's what I am against. It's like giving them a blank check to do what they want with the money without coming before us. That was the intent of this motion. Correct?
So, Chairman, thank you. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. We came before the commission last month, showed the line items, offered opportunity for question and answer, offered time between my last night meeting and this meeting to have any further discussions. And you and I did talk about these 2 items coming before the commission in this meeting. So I would like to suggest, and it's up to you clearly, that perhaps we let the staff present the items again so that everyone can have a fresher thought on it as you take your vote. This way, everyone has a clear vision of what is being discussed, and then you can, take your vote. And if it's delayed a month, it's delayed a month. We'll accommodate whatever the commission decides.
I'm gonna leave my motion the way it is. Commissioner Wilson.
I feel like we're kind of muddying the waters between 2 different things here, which is, perfect example is when you guys brought forward the dam projects that we have recently. Under this doesn't change that. If this department decides it wants to do another dam project, it still has to come in front of the commission. This is an operating budget. This isn't these grand, different projects that we're not brought up into. This is, I think about Fisher Cash research. That's what those research dollars, projects we've committed to that we have a university involved in. These are long-term things that are just daily operating expenses. I don't think there's anything wrong with commissioners sounding an alarm if they feel like, hey, why is this specific line item really inflated, especially maybe compared to a different year, which might then trap a new excavator or something like that. But right now, I feel like the commission feels like by approving this, we're no longer going to hear about these action items like the dam or a large property acquisition. Those things are still going to come before this commission. And this is another new layer now that we previously haven't had access to. I like Chris's question of saying we're already into 2026 here, and there are things that absolutely have moved forward. And for us to start really, sticking our fingers in it, which I don't think there's anything wrong with. I don't want people to misinterpret what I've said today. I don't think there's anything wrong with this commission operating as an oversight group. That's our job. We should be looking at how to budget, but this is an operating budget, not grand plans to acquire lands that we didn't get to approve for, all those kinds of things. I think it would make sense that this commission allow 2026 to move forward and us take our time with 2027 to work directly with the department, understand it, because we are already clearly stepping in the right direction. And I think thank you, director, for taking those steps, honestly. I mean, for retroactively looking at these other items, taking the effort to bring this forward. I think this is progress, and I hope that the opinion that I've expressed here isn't about removing our authority. This is about, first of all, recognizing that the department is taking steps to work with the commission. And second of all, I really just want to clarify that there is a difference between the operating budget and then these larger expenditures that we traditionally are involved in and will continue to be involved. And I think that's kind of been lost in this discussion. So just for clarity's sake, I just want to put that up.
Well, the item before you is for the operating budget of 26 and 27. And that's why I asked for 1 month to get down into the finer details. You can either vote or just give them the whole operating budget, or go along with it.
I guess my suggestion would be to separate 2026 and 2027. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like you said, the items for 26 and 27. Any further discussion that nobody's spoken of yet? And I guess we'll call the vote. We want to put this off till next month and have a meeting and have it broken down more? Or do you want to approve the whole thing right now? Those in favor of the motion before you, say aye.
Please raise your hand.
Opposed? Is that like the motion does not pass?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the operating budget for 2026 and that we table the operating budget for 2027.
Thank you.
Do we need any discussion on that one? Those in favor of approving the budget for 2000, how did you do it?
2026 and then table fiscal year 27.
Okay, those in favor of doing for 2025 and tabling 2026, say aye.
It was 26, 27.
26, 27.
We're already at 26.
So, are we talking about fiscal year 26, which is inclusive of part of calendar year 27?
Yeah.
Or are we talking about?
Like I said, 25.
So your motion, as I understood it, was accept.
Oh, I see how this is written. Okay, I was thinking that these were two separate years. You're saying it because of
Two separate.
I understand.
Two separate fiscal years.
Right.
So FY
You're
27,
splitting the fiscal year is what you're doing.
I understand.
Sure.
Director,
I'd like to offer to the commission, if you move forward with approving fiscal year 26 and 27
I
operating
can't
budget,
hear you.
I'd like to offer to the commission, if you move forward with approving fiscal year 26 and 27 operating budget, I will commit to working with you on the line items that were of concern, and we can talk through them together for both fiscal year 26 and 27.
I'm gonna,
Okay, motion is for. The motion is to approve the budget for 25.
right. Now it's to approve it for the 2026, 2027 fiscal year, so July,
Actually, your motion is to approve the operation of 26 and table 27. That's your. motion.
Right, and so to clarify my motion, I would, because I misread the
Okay.
paper.
I
I would
want
like
you
to,
to understand, we are in that budget.
I am, and that's why I'm making a motion. I make a motion that we approve the 2026 to 2027 operating budget.
so
Fiscal operating budget, correct?
Any further discussion?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. You need to take back this other motion and then re-present the new one.
Yeah, I take back,
We can't,
correct.
we've already got a second, and we discussed this, so we have to reject one and go to the next.
All right, the first motion that was made on this.
Yeah.
Was denied.
Yeah.
Then you made a motion to, this is the motion we're on.
And I'm
You're
gonna,
splitting the years.
I'm gonna remove my motion to split the 2026 and 2027, because I misread the line. And I'm making a motion to approve the operating budget for the fiscal year 2026 through 2027.
So the motion is to approve the budget for 26 and 27.
Right, which is a fiscal year, July to July, am I correct? So this would end July of 2027.
Question, well, it is the approval of fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27. Those are two different fiscal years.
So that's what I tried to do the first time, and then you guys told me that I did it wrong, that that's not the way it was written. That's how I was trying to approve from July of this year into June of 2026. Okay, and that was my first motion, and then I was told that I did it wrong.
The fiscal year runs from July 1st.
That is what I said, and then you told me otherwise.
We are in 25 and 26.
So I make a motion, which is my original motion, that I want to approve the operating budget from fiscal year 2025 July to June of 2026. And I want to table the fiscal year of July 2026 to June of 2027 for us to have further discussion on.
Second.
And that was my original motion.
I don't know if I'm second.
Clarify right now, the motion that has been seconded before we go into discussion. I want to know the fiscal years you're talking about.
And so I see the confusion here is that we're lumping two separate discussions together on this thing, because we have a retroactive one that's through June of 2025. And then we also are discussing.
All right, stop.
Okay.
That retroactive one, 24 to 25 is an entirely different item.
I understand that.
I'm not combining the
We're
items.
missing 25 to 26, and we've already discussed 25 and 26. And we're making, right now, as it stood, the original motion would have tabled 2025.
Now I know where the confusion is coming from. Item number 7,
Yes.
we are not on item 8 yet. We are on item
The
27.
motion you made included daily expenditures for currently the fiscal year we're in. So explain to me how you making a motion that includes our current operating budget, which is 2025 through 2026, is just 2026 and
The
2027.
motion that was made was under operating budget, item 7, 26 and 27.
But that's not the motion you made.
Hold on. To put it forward 1 month. And then the question came up about in between that month, the day-to-day operating expenses. And that's when I said, okay, for the month, we'll cap.
But that operating budget doesn't touch this month. That is not part of
That
this month's operating.
item failed.
That's what I'm trying to say.
The item failed.
If I think I can
Go ahead.
offer some.
You're back to item 7.
I agree.
It is.
So AJ, when it's all, when someone says fiscal year 26, they're referring to a period of time.
I
Right,
understand,
that includes
but
2 calendar
my
years.
point is that the motion was made that included talking about daily expenditures out of accounts for right now.
Right.
How can that be attached to a motion that is involving a fiscal year of 2026 through 27?
Because.
That's my
fiscal year-
question.
because
That's where the confusion.
Right, because fiscal year 26 begins on July 1st, 2025. And runs through the end of June 26. And I understand your motion to be that we'll accept this budget for fiscal year 26 and table fiscal year 27.
Right.
So that would be an acceptance of expenses that began being accrued or expended on July 1 of calendar year 25. Right?
Correct.
So,
And then through June of 2026.
correct.
Right. That's what I'm trying to do. And then I think the confusion is what Ray's saying, is that he was specifically talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, July 2026 to June of 2027. is what
I was
your
talking
original-
about item 7.
Yeah.
Putting it off till next month. The question came up about what about the expenditures between now and next month?
Yep.
And I said, go with the day-to-day. I don't know where that was confusing, but
Well,
apparently.
so what I'm saying is I want to separate 2026 and 2027. That's what I said originally. I still want to do that.
Make the
That's the
motion.
motion that I made. And I'm being told that was, is that, like,
I think that, if I may, I think that what is confusing some folks is that in the motion, there was a reference to fiscal year 27.
Right.
Which will begin in 2026.
right.
After July, or
Okay.
on July 1, right? So I think that's what.
So can I, since I presented my previous motion, I'm gonna clarify my motion, which is that I want to approve the budget, operating budget for the fiscal year 2026. And table the fiscal year 2027 for further discussion.
Somehow I don't think we need any more discussion on it.
Well, the only piece I think I would add in is to accept the director's,
I don't want any more confusion.
or not, but she's offered to speak with us about FY 27.
Yeah.
She's made that offer. So I think
She
we,
wants to put down every line item. I'm not ready for that yet. I asked for that to be put on. You want to put down every line item?
Excuse me. You're asking for them to tell us what you're spending the money on, and now you're telling me you don't want to go down any line item. I agree with the director said, approve the 26 budget. She's gonna start getting stuff ready for the next fiscal year, which starts for 27 in 26 of July. Okay, and I don't see a problem with that, just like what Pat is saying. It's gonna answer our questions and what the expenditures are going. She's gonna give us basically and sit down the line item of all these different things. I don't see any issue with that.
Move the question?
Yes, vote on the motion. To move the question.
All right, everybody's had a chance to talk, allow the motion to be moved. I'll grant Mr. Campbell's motion and move the question. Repeat your nomination. I want that clarified.
I am making a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 budget and to table the approval of the 2027 fiscal budget.
Can
Sorry?
we do that?
Sure, yes, I mean, if the director is able to do that, someone might want to ask her that question, but you're able to make that motion.
Okay, the motion has been made. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Okay, you gotta vote on moving the question first.
You have a motion to move the question. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Question gets moved. Now up to your motion, correct?
Yeah.
Motion is to, I'll have you repeat it.
Yeah, approve the fiscal year 2026 operating budget and to table the 2027 fiscal year operating budget for further discussion.
Those in favor of approving 26 operating budget and tabling 27 budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed. So that motion passes. Item number 8. Retroactively approve the fiscal year 26 and 27 operating budgets. Something different, Michael? I mean, sorry. I'm ready to take a break. Item 8 is retroactive approval of fiscal year 24 through 25. Operating budgets for the wildlife habitat account, fisheries habitat account, and the game management account. I am making a motion to approve the past budget with the stern warning from now on, this budget gets before this commission, not coming after the money has been spent.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Jim.
I plan on voting
Get your motion.
I'm not in the favor of retroactively approving something that evidently I didn't have a whole lot to say about it. I know Commissioner Temple mentioned something about the budget the last time I remember approving a budget for the Fish and Game Department was about 6 or 7 years ago. I don't think we will approve the budget since, so why are we doing this? I almost didn't vote again for number 7, because I figure you're really gonna throw fiscal year 26 in to number 8, because you're actually doing the same damn thing with fiscal year 26, so I plan on voting negative to the government.
Okay, my reason of doing this under discussion was the fact that after all the confusion of items going back and forth, and I know what has gone on in the past, I'm basically trying to help out our director in good faith with the warning, do not come before us. If she has items that have gone up to council, the council's kept them back because it didn't go before the commission. And if it's already been sent, don't use this commission for something you've already spent. I guess you could say I'm giving them all of this, but I wanted with that stern warning, this will never happen again. That was my motion. Any further discussion? Okay, not seeing
Grant, a question.
You gotta put your hand up higher. Thank you.
So Director, if I may, Director, is there any practical effect when we vote on this? Because I'm sympathetic to Commissioner Scovel's position on this. Pointless votes of no impact. I don't understand why we would take those, but if there's a reason why our approval assists the department, then that might be a good reason for doing it.
Well, the primary reason is to just get us back on track and to have our budgets approved. And I came in after this budget should have already come to you, and I wasn't aware that it didn't until much later into my tenure here. So I would like to, at least under my tenure, know that the parts of the budgets that I was here, we were at least able to get approved through the commission, because that is the process that should take place.
And that's the intention of my motion, is to give the director an opportunity, let's get this on track under her being the director, not past directors. On track, and let's get this whole budget stuff working. That was the intention.
Thank you.
The emotion is to pass it with a stern warning, do not come back before us, stuff on the path. I don't know.
Right?
Commissioner Casey.
Yeah, well, because I'm accused of doing a lot of talking and not saying anything, I'm gonna try to be very clear. The last 40 minutes is an embarrassment to me. An embarrassment. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because people that are sitting up here do have a responsibility to people out there. Okay? And if this had not been ignored in the past, this commission would have known all about this. Okay? And we wouldn't be having this merry-go-round of ridiculous discussion. So, and on top of that, with respect to the responsibility, because that's the word I want to use, because authority sets a different tone. But there is an authority here, and that authority was illustrated and backed up with a letter from the AG's office that everybody at these tables received.
Do not go into that letter.
I'm just saying,
I want to know.
okay? So we have the authority. If the director or staff questions the authority, all right, and us being able to receive this budget information in advance, that is an entirely separate discussion. Okay, but should I be here a year from now, okay, I'll be looking to know some detail well in advance of taking a position on the next budget.
Chairman, if I may.
Keep it short.
I will, absolutely.
I am trying to help you on this one.
We're all in this together, so I understand your frustration. I have equal frustration about what has occurred in the past. And that is why the July budget that was passed at the end of June came to you in July because we wanted your approval, your review of it. I don't believe that I've made a misstep here, and that is why I'm trying to correct these other things so that we can get on the same track. I'm as frustrated as you are to find out that fiscal year 24-25 was never brought before the commission. For these accounts.
In the past.
So I'm with you, Commissioner, and I'm giving you my word. That is why we brought these to you in July. That is why we're bringing it now, is because we need to start this biennium off on the right foot.
Okay. No further discussion. The motion is to pass it with a strong warning. Okay. I believe the director knows that. Those in favor of item A pass will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Please raise your hand for the no.
All right, do a roll call.
Yes, please.
Those in favor say aye. We got 6. Yeah. Pat, you're the clerk. Do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay, those opposed, raise your hand. That's 6 to 5. Yeah, it passes. Let's move on. Informational and financial statement, Kathy Labonte.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Director Simic, Kathy Labonte, Chief of the Business Division. The all-important year ending of fiscal year 25 financial statement should have been in your packet. And I would like to clarify a couple of things. This financial statement is a financial statement of unrestricted revenues only. It does not have any type of dedicated or federal revenues in it. And what unrestricted means is that these funds can be used for any department operation. The 3 accounts that you are talking about today in discussion are 3 dedicated accounts. They are individual accounting units that have different monies in them. We have over 40 accounting units within our budget structure. Just wanted to clarify that. So for our financial statement ending June 30th, 2025, I have a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. As you know, column 1 is the budget as approved with our unrestricted net appropriations, our budgeted revenue, and then our ending balance. Column 2 is the actual funds received and the actual expenses as they occur. About halfway down on column 2, you will see a negative $2.2 million. That is a lapse. What a lapse means is funds that were appropriated for us to spend that we did not use. A lapse also can be a revenue. As an example, say we budgeted $500,000 in revenue. We bring in $550,000. That $50,000 is a positive lapse to the Fish and Game Fund. This is one of the largest lapses to the Fish and Game Fund I have ever seen in my 22 years here. So with all that being said, at the bottom of that column is $12.6 million is what we ended fiscal year 25 in the unrestricted Fish and Game Fund. If you turn to page 3, please, where we have our breakdowns of our different revenues and our comparison of the year before. A couple of months ago, I believe it was Commissioner DeRosa asked me if we were on track with where we were last year. We are very close to where we were last year with only a $37,000 difference. License revenues were just over 100,000 higher than last year. The number I wanted to bring to your attention in this column actually is our interest on savings deposits, which is about halfway down, which experienced a $214,000 less in fiscal year 25 than in 24. And that is because the state as a whole has much less money in its coffers earning interest. So therefore, Fish and Game earned much less interest than we did in fiscal year 24. Does anyone have any questions about the fiscal year 25 financial statement?
They're not seeing any, thank you, Kathy.
You want to hear about July of 26?
Sure.
Okay. So you should have received your July financial statement. And again, it's only the first month, but the big number I wanted to bring to your attention right on page 1 is net appropriations. $20,135,290. That net appropriations is strictly unrestricted fish and game funds. That is a huge dollar amount. If you compare it even to the June one, where net appropriations was just over 17 million, that is very significant. Because if you go back and you look at the revenues and you compare, revenues have not, our anticipated budgeted revenues are not on that same scale. Just an FYI. I was very shocked. And if I'm shocked, it's shocking. Any questions? Or
Any
you all-
questions for Kathy? Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Informational items, number 2. The overview of proposed rule changes. Take a look at them over.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Director Simic. John McGee, Program Supervisor for Inland Fisheries Division. And I have one slide for you, just because it came to our attention, yours as well, I think. Relative to all the rule proposals that we're putting forward, this one, we decided to not move forward with. And I wanted to give you a visual of that, just so it's like right in your brains, you know? But what we are going to do is we're going to move forward internally with a lot of data analysis that we do have access to. And then basically rethink this, reanalyze it. So the 500 acres, limiting the 10 weigh-in tournaments on any water body, we are not going to move forward with that. And I think Tanya had sent an email to you in the last couple of days, I believe, about that. So again, just the visual. That's literally the only slide I have. I'm here right now if you have questions about any of the other proposals that we put forward.
What was the reason for that?
I think, it just came to light that we needed to do more looking into our own data to try to better understand, what the best path forward would be, if there's any path forward. We may not propose anything.
Thank you. I'm gonna take over for Ray. We'll be down for a moment here. Does anybody have any questions on the commission? Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that we have the public hearing Thursday this week for these rules. It will be
In this room.
in this room.
Our next item is Colonel Jordan. Is he going to be presenting on the topic today?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Director of Summit, Kevin Jordan, Chief of Law Enforcement. I don't have any slides to present for you, but I can quickly go over this. So we have two rules that are changing that I have been kind of responsible for. First one is wanton waste, and you remember we brought this as a result of a legislative effort that was put on 2 years ago, I believe now, or a year ago. That failed to pass, but the wanton waste piece of it we thought was necessary in New Hampshire. We never had anything to address that. Many other states do have wanton waste laws or rules. So we did a lot of research and we came up with a very simple new rule that would include the definition of wanton waste and how it occurs. It defines what can be removed and how waste is determined. It describes the level of the offense and lists the elements of that offense. And then it defines all the specific exceptions to the act of wanton waste based upon statutes and duties as defined in New Hampshire laws under Title 18. And we've given you folks a copy of that, so I'd be glad to answer any questions. There is a public hearing scheduled for this on September 11th, and we have the comment period is open through September 18th for folks to make comment on it. So I can certainly entertain any questions that you may have today.
Currently, has anything been looked at as far as when you're describing wanton waste and what particular animal is like a certain amount? I'll give you for an instance.
Yes.
I know in South Dakota, for instance, they define what large species of birds are, which is partridge, pheasants and so on, and you have to retain the legs, for instance.
Yes.
If you don't, it's considered wanton waste.
Yes.
If you just harvest them, the chest. So is that in that bill at all?
So what we tried to do, it's very difficult, it was very difficult to write one to address, I think what everyone here would agree we don't want, and that's animals wasted. Because there are different levels, as you know, there are different levels of use depending on the animal. So I was careful, I didn't want to include or forcing people to eat a muskrat, for instance, where you normally wouldn't do that. But by the same token, I don't want them killed and thrown over a bank. And so we worked through the definition of, if you look in the rule, we define big game, which are elk, bear, moose, deer, turkey. And then we define game in general, which would cover all the fur bearers. And we listed out the definitions of waste for those two groups of animals a bit differently. So we talked about eating or consuming the bigger game, which is what most people do. And we talked about the use of the smaller game. So yes, to answer your question, I think we did work pretty hard at that. That's where we looked at, the director's assistants looked at a lot of states that have good wanton waste laws on their books that worked. And we tried to mirror ours after that. I'm pretty confident we've done that. I'm not opposed, and the nice thing about doing it in a rule is you have the ability to change it. So if it doesn't work or we find that we missed something, we can go back and fix it as opposed to legislation where it's a lot more complicated. So I think we've accomplished that. Yes, sir.
Can I just confirm that the draft version that is most current is the one dated 7/9/25? Because something you just said made me think that maybe I'm looking at it.
So what you should have. One that we sent to you was July 9th of 25. Is that what you asked?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we described. Okay, so if you look under section A, Under 31301, section A, wanton waste is used in this section shall mean to leave a wild animal, wild bird, or fin fish as defined in 2071. That's where those definitions come in. Has been wounded or killed by that person while engaged in the acts of hunting, fishing, or trapping in the field, forest, or waterways without making a reasonable effort to retrieve, salvage, or recover it and render it for consumption or use. So there's both. And then the next one is for game animals, which are different. Game birds or fin fish as defined in 2071. This shall include the act of removing the head, hide, tail, antlers, or fins and leaving the edible portions to waste. Therein lies your difference.
Okay, so my question, thank you for that,
Yes.
is for 31302B. Says this section shall not apply to wild animals, wild birds, or fin fish that are diseased, comma, or grossly mutilated and thus unfit for consumption. So if there's one of the three classes of animal that are, by virtue of their disease, are still fit for consumption, they're not exempt.
No, they would be exempt.
So any animal with any disease,
Any disease. Yes.
even one that does not render them economically or for consumptive purposes unusable. So
Well, we wouldn't recommend anyone consume anything that's diseased. Is that your question?
well, just in the sense, right? So, I mean, there are a lot of diseases
Sure.
out there in the environment, and some of them are benign,
Right.
some of them aren't. Is them having any disease that create too broad a class of exemption was what I wondered.
I don't think so, because our general policies are, to not allow or not recommend any consumption of any animal that's diseased. That's typically the route that we have taken in all of this. So I don't think that would put us in a bad place. That, I think, comes into play too, when people wound a deer, they search and search and they're unable to find it, and it turns up 2 days later, but now it's rendered unfit for consumption. That would not be considered waste as long as a reasonable effort was put into retrieval.
Just like things.
Yes, yes.
Dan Bergeron, Chief of the Wildlife Division. I think I can kind of help clarify some of that. The way that it's worded, so a good example, I think, of what you're talking about would be like fibromas in the deer. That's superficial. Once you skin the hide off of the deer, it's typically still fit for consumption, assuming there's no secondary infection. So the deer with minor fibromas is diseased, but still fit for consumption. The way that it's written says that the disease or the mutilation has to make it unfit for consumption. So we do that all the time. Like if someone, I think the colonel was getting to this, somebody shoots a deer that outwardly looks healthy, but then they field dress it and they notice that it does have some sort of infection. We make those determinations all the time, and we issue additional tags for those people when a disease or an injury makes it unfit for consumption. So that's why it's written pretty much the same way in this rule, that if it's diseased or mutilated that causes that to be unfit for consumption, same thing, you wouldn't be held to wanton waste.
So we can take this offline,
Yep.
but you just actually got at exactly how I read it. And what raised my concern was because the way I read it is, the question is it diseased? Yes or no? If it's diseased, exempt. But then it says comma, or, right, or mutilated.
No,
And
the
that's,
comma's deleted.
Okay. It's deleted, it's on this one. So,
In the packet that I sent you.
On the right side.
alright. Okay. So when I printed it out, it just came out in the non-track changes version. So but it still says or grossly mutilated.
Yeah, diseased or grossly diseased and unfit for consumption, or mutilated and unfit for consumption. Diseased or mutilated.
Yeah, I believe I get your point. I think what you're saying is the two are separated, and thus the unfit for consumption only goes with the mutilated part.
Right, that's my, two concerns. One is any disease that creates too big an exemption. so that people can discard an animal that is still perfectly useful for consumption or for fur. And so that's number one, is it too broad an exemption, just any disease? And then two, this, the use of or, does it, does it apply to disease as well, the grossly mutilated part?
So I would say that's the intent, is that it applies to both. And we can make sure that we can clarify that is in fact the case, because that's certainly the intent. Yeah.
Thank you.
We can make that change after the public hearing. Put something in there that's more clarifying.
Yeah, so then if you want.
I have a question.
One more question.
It has nothing to do with this one, but, the posting on the straight wall cartridge,
Yes.
that can, getting calls on this. And you're saying that 4570 is considered a straight wall,
4570 pistol cartridge
right?
is considered
Can
straight
you
wall.
use it in the right-
Well, and just to clarify, that's not us saying that. That's a representative who wrote the bill. And
Because there is a discrepancy.
we get hundreds of calls on this bill. It is not easy to understand. So basically, any straight wall pistol cartridge greater than 357 is allowed currently in shotgun only towns. That's what we're telling people. The 350 Legend is the common call we're getting now. That is greater than, so it's okay. As long as they're pistol straight walled cartridges, they're okay to be used in shotgun only towns.
My understanding for doing this was if it was a pistol cartridge first and then putting it into a rifle.
I don't know what his understanding was. I can tell you it wasn't clear.
Yeah, because
It's not a good law.
it's the opposite of the,
Correct.
when it comes to
It's
40.
very confusing. I think it sets, we're concerned about it because it sets people up to fail.
And that's the big thing that I'm getting from the people in my area. They're saying, this is not right.
If you don't understand, here's the problem. If you don't understand cartridges, ballistics, you can easily make a mistake. I should clarify that. It's not a poorly written law. It's a law that's written for people that really have a good understanding of it. The average person does not. So it creates a bit of a problem. And we put the posting up literally because of the calls that we were getting hit with to try and clarify it. Yes, sir. The next one, if you're good, Mr. Chairman, I'll move on to the second one. The second one is guides.
Let's move on to guys.
Okay, so, we're on the guides. So the guide rule has changed. Again, you know the history on that. I think the lawsuit prompted us to look at.
Go into the.
No, but we were gonna look into, updating our guide rules, because we haven't done that in a long time. So we looked at a lot of other states who, had different ideas or thoughts on felony type convictions. So the old rule, basically at Fish and Game said you had a felony conviction at any level that you could not be considered, to take a guides test for fishing or hunting. We revisited mostly the western states, which have taken a little different approach to that. Under no circumstances can a felony conviction be allowed to guide for hunting because of the firearm restriction. However, there are some felony convictions that may not arise to not allowing them to be a fishing guide. Examples of that might be old drug convictions from years ago, nonviolent felonies, check writing, those types of things. So we opened the avenue so that people who have those convictions, felony convictions, if they want to apply to become a fishing guide, they can willingly come before a panel. We changed it to 2 law enforcement officers and a commissioner appointed by the commission, where the felony will become reviewed. The conviction will be reviewed, and more importantly, the things to be considered to be how long ago was the conviction, what's the rehabilitation process. All of these factors could play into allowing them to sit for that test. So this rule basically, we've readopted the entire guide chapter with that particular change, to lay out that process. Also in the rule, we created the ability for the person, if in fact they're denied, to sit for that guidance test, they can take that appeal to the director for further consideration. So that's the change in the guidance. And that's in line with, I'm gonna say, the majority of states today. And then we strengthened up some of the other convictions within that rule. So there's a requirement now, a person has to have a personal record free of controlled substance violation within 3 years preceding the date of the application, and that a person has a personal record free of convictions in any jurisdiction 3 years previous to the date of the application. Attorney General's office, Attorney Aslan helped us write that, basically authored it with our help or our input. So I'm pretty confident it was done correctly.
Any more questions for the panel? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Dan Bergner, Chief of the Wildlife Division. This one should be nice and quick. So this is just readoption of FIS 30804. These are the rules that outline our level 1 wildlife control operators. It came to our attention that these rules actually expired, in part because the way that they're posted online, or the way that they're referenced, there's an expiration date. But there was an update to the rules in 2016, but it was just one paragraph. It was paragraph E that added the information about the fee. So when we looked at this, we thought that these rules were good until 2026. Turns out it was just that paragraph that was good until 2026. Everything else has actually expired. So all we're looking to do is readopt these rules with no changes to get the entire section under 30804 on the same readoption schedule. We've started that process. There's no public hearing date set for this yet. If I can answer any questions, but really this is just readopting rules that have expired.
Any questions for Dan?
I'll make one more note. We did double check. There have been no violations handed out under this section since these rules have expired.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Okay, so that way.
Yes. Good afternoon, members of the commission. My name is Renee Vogel. I'm here representing the Marine Fisheries Division. We'll be short and sweet as well. Like Dan, we have a couple of rules that are expiring. They're still on the books. One is in reference to white perch, which has a daily limit and sale prohibition. The other is in reference to the taking of oysters. We don't have any proposed changes to these. They're simply a readoption of it. And we'll be moving forward with public hearing in the very near future to make sure that they're in effect prior to them expiring. Happy to take any questions about either one.
Any questions? Yes, no, thank you, Renee.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring to your attention that those rules, Renee's rules, will need commission approval. So we'll bring them for you this month.
Right, but right now they're informational.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next month will be for action.
Legislative committee.
The chairman, we did not meet. It was Lottie asked me if she thought that was a good idea to meet, with the overall. All the commissioners got it via email. We discussed it today, beat some of them to death. We'll have a public hearing on some of them day after tomorrow, and then we're gonna vote on at a later date. So we don't need that.
Someone said Thomas Cunliffe. Governance committee.
We have not met.
Sustainability and strategic planning, Commissioner Hodgson.
No meeting in July.
Resource and infrastructure.
Last Tuesday, Commissioner Poole and myself took a tour of the hatchery project over in New Hampton. Currently, the project is still on budget and on schedule for completion at its designated date. I just wanted to first thank the staff, Diane and Zach and Alex and the whole crew that was over there. Commissioner Poole, 4 hours?
4 hours.
We were there for a while. They were ready to kick us out the door, but, it was very informative. The staff, as usual, was very well prepared, Director. They were on it. And for me personally, what didn't escape me was the passion that they actually have for the project. They're very excited. I think, what's important and what I got out of it, and Commissioner Poole, you can jump in when you need to, was one, it's becoming readily apparent that what that project is going to give us in terms of opportunities moving forward. The ability for us to flex and do what we need to do to adapt to whatever conditions may need to be adapted to, and having the control to be able to effectively make those changes is going to be vastly different than it has been in the past. So those three qualities are, now that we're getting into the weeds of the project and watching it develop in front of us, I think are very important. So I hope that the general public understands, we understand that we're providing a limited service right now for the next couple of years, but I really think that this project is going to help cement the legacy that the current program has developed up to this point, but meet all the challenges that are coming for us and the opportunity to do that. So, Director, I think perhaps at some point in a future meeting, October, November, when it might be prudent, perhaps someone like Diana or Alex, the hatchery supervisor, could give us maybe a little bit more detail into what some of those opportunities are and what some of the controls that will be in place eventually when the project is completed. Commissioner Poole, do you have anything else to add to that?
Did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Public engagement and education, Commissioner DeRosa.
We have not met, but just a reminder to the public that, I believe we accept applications for awards to December 31st.
It's a deadline.
Yeah, that's our deadline. So if you know potential people, organizations, all the information is on the website. Please send those in. We'll be going over those missions probably in January or February.
I understand there's some come in yet to have to.
Yeah.
How will we buy them up yet? What?
Yeah.
Award.
We have awards that we still have to give away.
Yeah, they have not come in yet. They will be in shortly. So I will assume since the meeting up in one country for September, maybe it's up to you, October or November.
Yeah, we're ready for the next meeting.
That's in Concord.
Yeah.
People's committee report. Commissioner Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In June, I reported that the United States Coast Guard had proposed to eliminate 150 aids to navigation buoys in the Gulf of Maine. 6 of these buoys were going to be on the coast of New Hampshire. After the Coast Guard has received more than 3,000 complaints in opposition of the removal of these navigation aids, including a comment from Executive Director Senate. The Coast Guard announced it's going to delay its plan to remove these buoys while it conducts further studies of this whole program. The Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission had their August meeting, and regarding striped bass, due to the low probability of meeting the 2029 striped bass rebuilding deadline, they are proposing a addendum 7 for public comments, and some of the actions proposed would be a 12% reduction in the removal of striped bass, seasonal closures and or size limit changes, and a reduction in commercial quotas. This draft addendum is going to be available for public comment sometime later this month.
And final action is expected by the Atlantic, by Strike Fast Management Board in October. That's what I have.
Next Management Advisory Committee,
They have not.
New Hampshire Rivers Management Advisory Committee, presumably they will be
They
here.
have not.
Okay, any old business? Not seeing any. New business. There's a couple items I'd like to bring up on the new business. Just been brought to my attention. Number one, keep in mind subcommittees have to operate just like the commission. When you have a subcommittee meeting, make sure you're doing the minutes. The thing they're gonna ask for is that when we have a commission meeting or a subcommittee meeting, please notify the chair of the commission or the chair of that subcommittee if you cannot make that meeting. Try to do it a couple of days in advance. No, your committee had that issue the other day. Problem with that is when you end up with a committee that doesn't get a quorum, we got staff that's traveling to it and we can cancel the meeting. Ask again, keep in touch with your chairs and the chairman of the commission on that stuff. How is it? Commission reports. Any commission have anything they'd like to briefly report on?
Just,
Okay,
I just got a donation for the fishing game that was given to me by the club.
okay, very good. Thank you for handling that one the other day. Director's report.
Thank you, Chairman. So as always, we have a lot going on, hit fishing game. I'll start with the Wildlife Division. We just recently received a competitive wildlife state grant for the non-game program. They were selected under the competitive state wildlife grants program nationwide for a proposal to help continue funding the department's turtle conservation work and our management work. It's a $250,000 grant over 3 years. It will fund work focused on the blanding, spotted, wood, and eastern box turtles. Most of it's going to be able to help us stabilize our important populations and restore priority nesting areas. Obviously, working with our law enforcement division and other partners to reduce threats to the turtles for illegal collection. Also, game program, they've been super busy. They've completed their summer goose banding. They continue work on human wildlife conflicts, although human bear conflicts are down this year compared to other years. We're working with growers with deer damage on agricultural fields, that sort of thing. They're establishing their duck banding for avian influenza surveillance. That's coming up now. They're also preparing for the upcoming harvest season, which includes like tooth sampling, CWD sampling, things like that. The game program also competed for a National Wild Turkey Federation grant, and they were granted $11,600 for banding to assess harvest rates across the state. It'll be a statewide project. Additionally, our habitat program within the Wildlife Division is working with our partner agencies, DES and DNCR, on various dam projects and renewable efforts there. Our Fisheries Division, as was stated earlier, very happy about the New Hampton hatchery. It's progressing well. Daily progress is viewable via our online camera. So if you go on our webpage, you can check out the current project there. It's on track for completion, as the commissioner stated, in October 2026. They did actually pour the concrete raceways and for the brood stock building. Our brook trout and stream crossing surveys, which we talked about earlier, they have been completed. The Lakes Region staff are conducting forage studies on the large lakes right now. And this is night work that will be continued over several weeks. So you might see them out there if you're out on the lakes. The Business Division, they've been super busy. Key updates from them include the reconciliation and improved financial transitioning that we've done for our activity codes. Basically, we've transitioned to using activity codes that will account for our payable invoices. And this change is going to directly assess and reconcile the issues we've had within our audit findings. So this is good progress for us. I think we're gonna actually reconcile that entire issue that was, I guess, ongoing for a couple of years. The OHRV registration program, the online program, is progressing smoothly. We're on track to go live mid to late September. We are doing some testing with some of the groups in the next week or so. And you may have noticed that the OHRV rules were updated and accepted and finalized July 9th. Law Enforcement Division, as always, continuing to respond to multiple calls for assistance, rescues with hiking, and also a significant number of OHRV accidents each weekend, actually every day, just about. Team is working details in every effort to stay on top of those calls and try to be present for the needs. They're also putting together another conditional offer for a conservation officer from the North Country. He actually comes to us as a certified police officer at this point, so we're still trying to fill additional positions, but we're making some progress there, and that's a good thing for us. The Enforcement Division also participated in many national night out events. You may have heard about those. Our staff has been very actively involved in that. They did a number of canine demonstrations across the state. And our goal, of course, is to just get the public to see us and speak with us and engage. Public Affairs Division, they're getting ready for big fairs, Hopkinton and Lancaster fairs over Labor Day weekend. We also have a Becoming Outdoors Woman fall weekend coming up for September 5th through the 7th. I think we might still have a few vacancies, so those women out there, if you're interested, please join us. You may have noticed that you came in today, the pond is being renovated, so we're very excited about that. That was a good project. It's being, thanks in part really, it's being done through a large donation from Naturescapes, which is the company doing the work, and then we have some funding from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and gifts and donations to complete that project. A big thing that's coming up is I'll talk about that. Let me get on to facilities and lands. Facilities and lands, many of you may have seen some significant improvements. They have been working really hard. We have the ADA platform installation beginning at Newfound Lake September 1st, so that's exciting. They did site repairs and signage installation and kiosk cleanup at Winnie Clark Boat Landing. We have 12 damaged roads across the state were restored following the spring and summer storms. Obviously, the New Hampton Hatchery, we've got work going on there. The headquarters roof design for installation was completed, and we'll be adding installation and facility into the facility here soon. Hoping to have the roof replacement commenced by late August or early September, finally, so you won't be dodging buckets in the upstairs floor. They also repaired 14 boat access sites across the state. And one of the bigger ones that they did a lot of work on was Warren Pond. Marine Division and Great Bay National Estuary and Research Reserve. It's Bug Week occurred last week. So they had a 5-day science week that was funded through grants, had quite a bit of participation there. They also continue to do a lot of work with the Great Bay stewards. They have ongoing field work right now in the Marine Division, doing juvenile finfish surveys, lobster sublegal trap and dive surveys, lobster port and sea sampling of commercial catches, angler intercept surveys. I mean, the survey list goes on and on. We're just gathering data as much as we can and trying to analyze it as quickly as possible as well. Site work has started at Glen Cove Wildlife Management Area for the infrastructure project there, which I think the infrastructure team will probably want to talk about that in the next meeting. Also, the staff coordinated with other agencies and local municipalities on a variety of work, which included aquaculture compliance checks, American lobster stock assessments, passive acoustic monitoring of Atlantic large whales. One thing, and kudos to Renee for this, she negotiated with some southern states to acquire some of their menhaden quota. So that's a good thing for us. Staff are working really hard out there. Our federal aid coordinator has submitted grants to the Atlantic Flyway Federal Grant, and a study on white nose bat disease, so we're optimistic about those. Our legal coordinator, welcome back, Marty. Happy to have you. She has advised me that we went through some sessions, we looked through things, and she's advised me that she's preparing a calendar for the timelines of the upcoming rules, which will be helpful because I'm very much about timelines and deadlines. So we're going to work through that. And then at this point, we don't have any recommendations for filing legislation. It's a quick session coming up soon. And at this point, from the agency, we don't really have anything to prepare forward. From the director's office, I continue to do tours around the state, trying to meet some of the staff in the regions and see the facilities. Also, we've been engaged in helping some of the executive counselors have asked for tours of our assets within their regions and districts, so we've taken them out. We continue to collaborate on a variety of things. We have scheduled our next biennium public hearings. Just wanted to remind the public, we mentioned it last time, but I want to remind everybody that we have a public hearing on September 16th in Region 1 at the Lancaster office. And then we will have a second public hearing October 21st here in Concord. And these events are open to the public, and you provide any input or feedback you'd like to provide to the agency. The big thing I was going to talk about earlier is Good Morning America is actually featuring New Hampshire as part of their 50 States in 50 Weeks segments or their series. And New Hampshire Fish and Game is being spotlighted in this. And it's pretty exciting. It's going to have some B-roll and some live coverage as well. It's going to be aired on August 28th. They are filming at the top of, or they have conducted some filming at the top of the White Mountains. They're highlighting our search and rescue teams and also our White Mountain Fritillary and White Mountain Arctic butterflies. So you'll see one of our staff members talk about the butterflies up here. I've been told that the governor will be present to deliver a special proclamation at this event as well. So tune in. It's exciting for us and it's exciting for New Hampshire. Also, one last exciting piece of news that I'd like to share with everybody is the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies gives gives a variety of annual awards each year. But one of the awards that they give is the Guy Bradley Award, which recognizes individuals for their achievements in wildlife law enforcement. Each year they give two nationwide. One is for a federal agent or a federal officer, and one is for a state officer. This year, Colonel Jordan, where are you? This year, Colonel Jordan has been selected as the recipient of the state award, and he will be presented the award at the ACWA annual meeting in Tucson, Arizona, following the office.
From the public. Not seeing anybody.
All right.
As a reminder, next month's meeting, we are up in Lancaster. That's way up north.
We did want.
Remember to bring your snowshoes.
Don't worry, Channel 9 and Good Morning America will blaze the trail if you tell them.
That's right.
No problem there. Motion to adjourn.
You got
Ray, I apologize, Chair, that underneath the commissioner's reports, we're moving relatively quickly, but suffice it to say, though, the last weekend in July, I participated and attended the New Hampshire Trap Shooting Association's championships. It's not held here in New Hampshire. We have to travel down to the Minuteman Sportsman's Club down in Burlington, Mass. It was a 700 target event over 3 days. There was a team there from the Hampshire Youth, which I stopped and talked to in a few minutes. Additionally, we've had several shooters this past week at the Nationals out in Sparta, Illinois. And the shooters from New Hampshire that went I'm sure did, quite well. And in closing, one New Hampshire youth shooter was the top of his age group or his division, and he's from the Fall Mountain High School. And having said that, that's my report for this month.
I just need to address the public. Earlier, I made a comment, not everybody on the commission knows, Commissioner Cave, I made a comment that he should talk a lot instead of looking. That's not true, we all know that, but I just want to make sure the people in the public will be confused. He doesn't contribute anything to what we do because he's a very good contributor, but I still get after him too.
That's part of the policy.
It is an apology, isn't it? Not necessary. Thank you, Eric.
Good, how are you?
Let's go.